Hello students, how are you all? I hope you all are fine. Let's begin with today's class. So, in our earlier videos, we started with the chapter number 4, that is beginning of human life. Today I am going to continue with this chapter. In our last class, we studied about different things which man discovered during the ancient time or during the Stone Age. We saw that men and women during that time discovered fire. They made tools and weapons. They also made discovery of wheel, right? They invented wheel. They started rearing cattle, and the last thing was the cavemen, right? They used to live in caves. They used to paint over there. They used to make weapons and tools, and they used to stay there permanently. Along with that, the primitive man or the Stone Age man used to live near the banks of river so that he can get water, because during that time they came to know that a man will need water to live and food also. So near the river they used to live, and they used to also make tools, weapons, and they used to make different paintings in the caves, right? So this all things I explained you in our last video. Along with that, we also saw this Bhimbetka in Madhya Pradesh is very famous for the cave paintings of the Stone Age, right? Now in today's class we are going to see about the changing climate, right? So when this primitive man started living, they saw the changes in the climate, right? So the change in climate is natural. So this thing was happening since the primitive man used to live. So let's begin with today's class. It is believed that there were major changes in the climatic conditions of the earth around one around 12,000 years ago. So climatic changes on the earth was being seen by the Stone Age men from like around 12,000 years ago. Climate changes brought about changes in the flora and fauna. See, what is flora and fauna? Flora means plant and fauna means animals. So because of climate changes, there was changes in the birds and in the life of plants and animals also of different regions. Grass eating and meat eating animals increased in the plains. Thus, man learned to tame a domesticate animals for his use. So, they saw that the grass eating and meat eating animals increased. How? Because some fruits and some crops are grown in a particular season, and they saw that there is a climatic change, and in some seasons only they found some crops. So what happened? The population of the grass eating and meat eating animals increased. Why? Because why did their population increase? Because they used to live on plains. Grass grow on plains, right? And they found different animals on plain land, right? Plains over here means the plain land, right? So thus man learned to tame and domesticate animals for his use. So they thought that instead of growing crops like in different seasons, they won't get crops in all the seasons. So they thought that let's use animals for our use, right? So they started domesticating, which means they started cattle rearing. They started keeping animals as their pets. Men found naturally occurring crops of wheat and barley in the plains of India. So, along with that, when they started domesticating animals, they also found that they can grow crops like wheat and barley. So, in the plains of India, they started growing these crops. Gradually, he learned to grow them extensively and store them for future use. So, then he started learning that instead of being dependent on others, let's store these crops which they grow in a particular season, which we do right now, right? So, now what we can do is we don't buy the some of the crops, we can get it in the whole year, right? How is that possible? Because we store that crops and grains. So they started growing these crops and they started to they started making them store. So after storing, what did they do? See, thus, man learned to tame domesticated animals for his use. Man found naturally occurring crops like wheat and barley in the plains of India. Gradually, he learned to grow them extensively. So, he started growing it in a large amount and they started storing them for future use. Farming brought them together and encouraged them to live a settled community life. So, because of farming, they all lived together and they started encouraging their lives and they lived a settled, that means a very simple and a very good life, and thus man became social and developed language to communicate. So they started slowly, man started to communicate, they developed language and they became social, they started sitting with each other, they became united, right? So as they come together, they'll need a language to communicate, and thus they made a language, they started developing language, right? Now, here is one topic called as the role of men and women. So, at that time, we don't know exactly what type of work a man used to be given and what type of a work a woman used to be given. So, what was the role of men and women, right? So, let's begin. We do not know exactly what role men and women played at that time, right? We didn't knew, okay, what happened during that time, what role a man used to play, what role a woman used to play. We don't know about that. Did man and woman both go for hunting? So think about it. So think that during stone age, what was the role of a man and what was the role of a woman? Man and woman both used to go for hunting. Did man gather food and make weapons? Did women paint on the walls of the caves? See, what you need to think is, what was the role of a man and woman during that time? What a man used to do, does he used to go out and he used to hunt animals and bring back home and they used to cook and eat it? And did the woman used to sit in the caves and she used to paint the caves, right? Is it possible? It is possible both man and woman work together. So obviously that is not possible. So which means that man and woman both used to work together. It is also possible that some jobs were done only by women. And one more thing, there is also possibility that women used to do some kinds of work. Different traditions would have been followed in the different parts of India with regards to this. So we don't know exactly what was the role of a man and what was the role of woman. Some things must be done by women and some must be done by men, and there must be different traditions in different parts of our India. So that the possibility is both, that it is also possible that man and woman both used to go for hunting and both used to make weapons, and it is also possible that man used to work and a woman used to follow some paintings and etc. Thus, we can say that men's knowledge and awareness about life increased, which led to further socializations. This was the first step towards culture and civilization. So, with this thing, we can say that men's knowledge and awareness about life increased. Like, so because of this, what happened, they started farming, they started knowing each other, they make exchanges of their crops, and many other things happen. And because of this, socialization was happen. And then after that, they started moving towards the next step of culture and civilization, which means that they started to follow some trends, they started to follow some festivals, they made some groups of people like this, that is called as civilization group of people, right? We get detailed chronological information about this from the excavation carried out in the central and the north Gujarat. So we can get some more knowledge about this from the excavation, which means the historians, the archaeologists, that research is called as excavation. I have already told you. So they this thing we can know the detailed information about this we can get from the center and the north Gujarat. The remains of humans and animal skeletons have been found in the sorry the remains yes here the remains of humans and the animal skeleton have been found in the Langhanj and Akhanj villages in the Sabarmati region and Amarpur of the Mahi River region. So we can found this ancient skeletons, like ancient people skeleton in these regions, and from this we can get some more information about that type, the about the stone age, right? So I'm going to stop over here with today's class. We'll see you in the next class. Thank you.